are powers on Earth too hidden to be seen, and conspiracies too vast to comprehend. For years, the world has seen fact distorted, reality manipulated, and the truth concealed. Join the Pierre Sebac podcast to uncover the real meanings behind ancient aliens and their symbolism.
Hi, this is Pierre Sebac, unlocking the keys to the mysteries. Now, in my previous video, we spoke about the Dagon, which was this semi-divine daemonic entity which was represented with a fish's body and was said to be amphibian. Today we're going to be looking at the An-Adul-I, and we're going to be focusing specifically on who and what the An-Adul-I is in context to the occult tradition. Now, first of all, the etymology of An-Adul-I means the repulsive one, and the An-Adul-I was described as being semi-divine and therefore is equated with a type of daemonic entity, hence the connection with daemon and Deimos, which is fear. Again, within the Greek we would find a similar etymology between Gorgos, which means terrible, and a Gorgon, which was this human seraphic deity, this grafted or stitched bloodline. Now, reproduced extensively throughout religious teachings, the analogy of a fearsome deity, particularly within the Greek and the Semitic, originally it insinuated a type of seraphim or reptilian being. As we mentioned before, the wording seraph is closely concordant with Raph, which is the old Semitic root for fear. So therefore the seraphim is this type of reptilian being who is personified as a deity or a daemon, and is very much frightening in terms of their external form. So we can say therefore that the seraphim and the An-Adul-I, in many respects, they can be understood to be a type of creature that is conceived to be alien or strange in their appearance. But the legends of the An-Adul-I within the Babylonian tradition, the repulsive ones, they are very much ubiquitous, and they are found throughout the Semitic and the Mediterranean traditions. This idea of an amphibian or reptilian deity, which was connected to the dragon and was this secret teacher of knowledge. Now, the word An-Adul-I is a type of paranomasia. It's a wordplay which is shown to be compatible with the Greek adverb ano, meaning above or upward, from the Old Semitic root an, heaven, and dotes, which is a giver. Now, the verbal root dotes, a giver, is akin to didomai, which is the verb to give. Again, we can say that there is this, if you like, etymological connection between didomai, to give, in the occult tradition, with the Greek noun didymos, a twin. This is because the twin is used typically as an occult signifier of Sirius. So this idea of giving is certainly concordant with the idea of a twin, something which is hidden, which in this respect would be the star system Sirius. So we can say, therefore, if we're going to sum this up, that the dragon or the seraphim, they're both equated astrologically with the star system Sirius. They are a teacher of mankind, but they also rule over mankind also, and this is made very clear in the Testament of Amran, in which the watchers, who are described as frightening and having the face of a viper, are said to rule over mankind. Now, when we look at An-Adul-I, which is this type of repulsive god, the repugnant one, we see that there is this connection between An-Adul-I, the heavenly giver, and again it has this idea of a twin, one who is twinned with Sirius. Again, the symbolism of the twin would feed into the idea of an amphibian, one who lives in the water, symbolically heaven, but also one who lives terrestrially, which can be understood to be the earth. So this juxtaposition, if you like, between heaven and earth, which has this connotation of a twin, or of Sirius, again this idea of Canis Major and Canis Minor, which is the star system of Sirius. So again, the idea that the solar device of the sun is twinned with Sirius is another important idea within the fertility cult, and again has this connotation of panspermia, of the planting of life upon the earth. So when we look at the symbolism, we see that there is conceptually this combination between the giver and the receiver, and the idea that the giver and the receiver are twinned together. It has this sacred relationship or geometry between the giver and the receiver, and in particular in terms of rituals and practices which are accorded to heaven and earth. Now, in some respects we can say that this is also very disconcerting, because the linguistic evidence, when we look at this comparatively, it really indicates that the An-Adul-I, that at some level they instituted the practice of immolation and sacrifice. And this is a connection which is particularly corroborated within the old Semitic glossaries relating to deities and their veneration. And I think it's really important when we look at the etymologies, we can see that there is this connection between a deity and a sacrifice. But when we look at what this actually symbolizes, the inference really demonstrates that the An-Adul-I, the grotesque ones, the repulsive ones, that in many respects that they are equated not only with being a benefactor in terms of that they give knowledge and that they originate from the sky, but that they also receive offerings. And again, this idea that the An-Adul-I are repulsive fits into this idea of the seraphic host of the seraphim, who are said to be non-human or repulsive in their appearance, frightening in their appearance. So we're seeing that there is this correlation with sacrificial offerings and redemption, and this is going back in the ancient world, and it goes all the way back into Babylon and much earlier. So we're seeing that theologically there is this mirrored relationship between life and death, and An-Adul-us, or the An-Adul-I, they are these deities are really working on duplex symbolism, this idea of giving and taking, of this twin relationship with Sirius. So I want to now just quickly summarize some of the etymologies between a deity and a votive, just to try and show this relationship with sacrifice, which are commensurate to a deity or a type of jinn. So we can say that the An-Adul-I, the repulsive ones, again is connected to An-Adul-us, a heavenly giver, and has this connotations of giving. Now we're seeing that there is also this relationship with fairy. Again, the fairy is connected to fear, but again fire as well. So the fairy is a shining one, and again the fairy would fit into the tradition of the Watchers because of this connection between view and fairy, or the fae and view. So there is this etymological connection with a watcher or a shining one. In this respect, this would be the seraphim, Sopha for watcher, Serefa, which is fire. Again, when we look at the jinn, we see that there's this interconnection between jinn, which is the old Semitic noun for a serpent or a worm, and again this idea of din, which is religion, coming from the old Akkadian verb din, which is to give. In Greek also, theos, God, dios, fright, thusia, which is to offer a sacrifice. Again, within English, the etymology of God is coming from the old root word gad, which is the old root word to watch, but again it has this connotation of guild. The old word for a sacrifice is a guild. So again, this idea of Freemasonry being a type of guild is interconnected to the rites of Freemasonry, which is a type of sacrifice, which is going back into the traditions of the deities and sacrifice. So when we begin to view and weigh all of this up, we can say that within Babylonian mythology and the Semitic traditions, and also the Greek traditions, that the gods are typically viewed to be non-human. In particular, the An-Adul-I are described as the repulsive ones. But again, that they are connected to the exaltation or the worship of entities or deities, and this is also found in the traditions of the seraphim. Again, the seraphim being this type of serpent deity which is repulsive in appearance, the seraphim being a type of watcher, again, which is connected to the angelic host. The angelic host are viewed to be crew members of vessels. Now, in the Testament of Amran, we said that the watchers or the angels or the seraphim, which were said to be repulsive in appearance, they ruled over humanity. And this idea is very much tantamount, and it's certainly found within biblical and apocryphal writings concerning the dragon, and also the Elohim as well, because remember that the etymology of Elohim is related to Erin, which are the watchers, in Greek theos, God, theros, which is a watcher. So widespread, it's certainly found throughout ancient sources, this idea that the reptile is archetypically shown to be a ruler over mankind, and is therefore can be understood to be a type of deity. And this is very much a common narrative which is highlighted throughout ancient mythology. So when we look at the idea of the host or a dragon, which is a type of watcher or a deity, a type of angel, a type of seraphim, we find that there are many themes which are interlinked together. We can say, for example, that the dragon is authoritarian and it's hierarchical. The gods have a proviso or an authority to rule over mankind, and this is important because the watchers are interconnected to the monarchs. Hence the connection between Malach, an angel, and Melech, which is a king. This idea that the monarch is a mediator between heaven and earth. Again, we can say in terms of the dragon that the dragon is a type of foreign dignitary, and therefore is interconnected with a deity or lordship. This idea of lordship, Baal, Bachar, a sailor, again has this idea of one who is derived from heaven. This idea that the naval host or the angelic host is assigned to the naval host. This idea that that the deities are connected to ships, and this is a very important idea. This idea that the station of a god designates a militarized unit, and this militarized unit is comparative to the naval host. Again, we can say that the An-Adul-I, otherwise the dragon or the Dagon, a type of watcher, deity, angel or jinn, is non-human or frightening in appearance. And again, jinn is related to the old Semitic word jen, which is a serpent or a worm. So therefore, the gods, they are repulsive, they are alien in their outward semblance, and this is another important idea. As we mentioned before, there is this connection also between, in English, between grey and gross, this idea that the greys are gross in their appearance. So we're finding that these wordplays are playing out in multiple languages, and this type of paranomasia is known as polyglottal symbolism. Again, with in terms of the dragon or the seraphim, we're finding that they're both patrons of mankind, but they are also institutors of tariffs, and so therefore the seraphim and the Elohim or the seraphic host, they establish this sacred rite of sacrifice. And again, the seraphim and the Elohim, they are understood or epitomized to be a type of god. So we can say that there are a number of ideas which are connected in terms of the An-Adul-I, in terms of its representation as a type of reptile or dragon. But again, this idea that the dragon is a type of watcher or a shining one, a god or a deity or an angel, these are all terms which are synonymous with the daemon or a type of jinn. And this is also important when we begin to break down some of the etymologies. And I just want to make a couple of points. It's important to notice that in terms of the serpent and its representation as a god, we can argue that certainly within the Testament of Amran that the watchers, that they do rule over mankind, but they are also recorded as a type of frightening deity. They are understood to be a type of serpent. They are very disquieting in their appearance, and therefore the Erin, the watchers or the shining ones, who are described in the Testament of Amran as a type of dragon, they are described as having a face as a type of viper or an asp, and therefore we can say that the Erin, the watchers or the shining ones, are another word for the seraphim. Sopher for watcher, seraph, serapha, which is fire. The connotation here is astrological of Sirius. So, religiously, the seraphim, variously the An-Adul-I, a type of daemon or a jinn, they are recognised as founding the early civilizations, and therefore they are related to the enotheistic religions. This idea that although there is this hierarchical relationship of angels and of deities, that at the top there is one god or one deity which rules over this command structure. And this command structure is a militarized structure which is connected to naval symbolism, in particular to the naval host, which is understood to be the angelic host, which is equated with heaven. Now, this hegemony is sourced directly from the snake, which is this non-human entity, which is a type of alien. And in many respects, the Ruach Elohim, the high spirits, or the jinn, which is a serpent or a worm, which are otherwise the seraphim, they are both inspirational, but they are also controlling, and therefore the dragon communicates both with mankind and is also a purveyor of wisdom. And this is important. The dragon gives knowledge, gives wisdom, and this is a very ancient tradition, and this is a teaching which is ascribed to the Watchers, and it also extends to the modern cases of alien abductions. So in many recent encounters with intelligences which are extra mundane, this interface between the alien and the human mind is very important, and often it's understood to be telepathic. It's inspirational, this idea that the human mind and the alien is somehow connected together, it's somehow tied together. And we're finding this also with the angelic messengers within the Bible, in terms of that they can communicate, and that they are connected to this idea of the inspiration of spirit, this idea of communicating telepathically. Again, within the traditions of the Karin, which is this type of jinn, the etymology of Karin is closely grouped with Kari, which is the Arabic word for telepathic. So this idea that they can communicate through the mind. So we're finding therefore that the seraphim, which is a type of angel, remember that in Aramaic also Zar is an angel or an alien, but the terminology is synonymous, and therefore we're seeing that the seraphim, that although they are anomalous in their appearance, they are very enigmatic, and these are enigmatic beings. And we're seeing that essentially that the symbolism of the seraphim, that the symbolism is repackaged, if you like, for a contemporary audience when we're looking at ufology, when we're looking at the grey alien, and we're looking at non-human entities. We're seeing that there are comparisons between the different types of entities, and now often they are viewed as non-human in appearance. And that's essentially the An-Adul-I, the repulsive ones, and now they connect with the seraphim and the tradition of non-human aliens. Okay, this is Pierre Sabak. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, then please give me a thumbs up. I would ask that you also subscribe to my channel, and again, if you're interested in this work, then please go to my website, Pierre Sabak Books. Also please buy a book as well, because it helps to support my videos and it helps to support my work. Let's try and make this a better world. This is Pierre Sabak. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.